Whew.
All right, I think we're live. Happy Divine Mercy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back to 6 Feet Apart. Father Lampett, Father Chase, myself, Father Lucas, for episode/installment 4 already.
Four already?
Wow. We are 4 weeks in, and the popularity just keeps growing, is the exciting news, I think. So, welcome. Still in quarantine, still in our shelter in place, so that much hasn't changed. So, we'll just spend a little bit of our Sunday afternoon with you. So, welcome to Catholic Illini. Welcome to all you Catholic Illini people.
Hey,
we got people.
Weatherman.
Yeah.
Weatherman Ike.
Signing on.
Mike.
Audrey.
Nice to see y'all.
Good to see you.
There we go.
I feel like I'm the only one on camera right now.
Yes.
Why do you feel that way?
You can just
Why do you feel that way?
gradually...
Because I see the camera.
Because you see yourself. We see yourself. Well, it's all right. Yeah,
I didn't want the middle position,
put the
but I was...
put the face out there. Put the face out there. You know, we're trying to sell it.
Oh yeah, so this answers our question about what they can see.
All right.
We're discussing.
Well, we should discuss something.
Well, you know, as I think we've been our custom, we're let's just go back to the game tape for Mass for a second, and you know, because that's the joy of having film footage. Another beautiful liturgy, I thought. Music, astounding once again.
Yep. Shout out to Heath and his guys for
absolutely.
pulling something together for us.
Yes. But I always am curious about when a homily comes out, when I'm not preaching, I get the Sunday off, and I can do a couple things over there on my bench. Pray with it. I can take a little nap. There's a lot that happens.
Yep.
But I thought we could, one question that came to my mind.
Today?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when we get into the discussion, because that's a very important part.
He was coming up with the notes for today.
Yes, I had work to do during my off week of preaching. So, but one thing that I came up with is all three of us, I think, have a different style of preaching.
Absolutely.
And I was wondering if we could talk about what we do to come up with homilies. You know, where does that come from? How do we come up with our style and all that? I thought that's a
style or topics.
Yeah,
or
like
the whole
thing, like
the whole evolution.
The what?
The whole evolution.
Yeah, like the whole building process. You know, like when do.
How about I start?
Looking at the. Please do. You're in the center chair. You're in the center chair. So go.
So basically, what happens is usually about a week before we preach. So. On that 7 days before I know that I'm going to preach the next weekend is the time that I start looking at the readings for the next weekend. So as soon as the weekend's over, then it's on to the next weekend, and basically start praying with it and allowing it just to marinate in the mind all week long. So I just want it to be on my mind as I go throughout the week, and I may read the readings several times throughout the week, but usually by Tuesday or Wednesday, there's an idea that's already, like, I just feel inspired that there's one thing, like here's what I want to preach on, or I need to preach on, or I feel like our students need to hear, or whatever. So there's already like a pointed message that's going to be in there. And so then basically do Lectio Divina, which is just kind of working the readings and seeing what the church is trying to say, what Jesus is trying to say through the readings, try to get into his mind, his head. And then once I do that, then I don't know. Maybe there's not enough time to explain everything, but then it
try to get into his head.
I did catch that. Like that.
I get into Jesus' head. I want to know what Jesus wants to say. So that's better than what I have to say. So then once that happens, then I have to find one theme. Like in my mind, I have to know exactly where this is going. At the end of the day, I have to ask, so what? Like, so what? You know, like, well, okay, I can say a bunch of things, but at the end of the day, so what? What do people care that I say this? And so I have to have one thing to go on today. And maybe that today was that mercy is bigger than forgiveness. That was in my mind the entire time I was preaching, saying, like, how do I explain that mercy is more than just the initial forgiveness? So that was my thought in today.
Any particular people inspired, like, help you develop your own style of preaching? Like, which priests or saints or I don't know.
Great question.
Yeah, honestly, this is part of my story. Is that I'm not sure.
It's me. When he started to listen to me preach, it's just like, wow, now I've got it.
We were classmates.
I can inspire a classmate.
Can also be negative. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. Well, I will say that just kind of, people always ask, well, which priest inspired you along the way?
Yeah.
And I can say that I don't know that I was really inspired by a priest. That's not why I became a priest. It was not because of someone else's inspiration. And I don't know that I paid too close of attention or was really inspired by someone's preaching style or whatever. I remember just being in seminary and of course listening to Fulton Sheen and of course that was inspiring because he had something to say. And I think one thing that I'm inspired by in preaching is when someone has something new to say, right? I could go up there and say something that everybody says and the church has said 1,000 times and I just feel like sometimes people are bored. I'm always trying to find something that is maybe a little bit new or nuanced. It doesn't have to be new, maybe just nuanced or just said in a different way that we haven't understood it before. So that's kind of my inspiration when I preach.
I love that. To that question, Father, mine was my home pastor. I'd say I was I noticed as a kid, very engaged when he was preaching, Monsignor Watson, who was an assistant chaplain here at St. John's early in his priesthood. But I remember Sundays like being tuned in to what he was saying. I mean, and he had the gift of being able to see a parish full of people, but you felt like he was just talking to you. And so that style of preaching is something I try to do it very conversational or just very, I don't know, try to have that. He was a good storyteller. He is a good, just connecting the dots between the scriptures and real life. So I would say that's how I try. I can still hear him. It's where I can still hear his voice and hear some of those homilies, things that he would say often. And so that was my inspiration.
How do you develop your homily then?
How do I develop my homily? Very similar. Reading the Gospels, reading the weekend readings, like Father Chase mentioned, throughout the week. And but I always like to go to the church fathers or see what was initially thought of and see how I can make that applicable. So I always again like to tell the story, like to share experience on how the Gospels come into life in our daily encounters. So those are kind of the key components that I look at, bridging the gaps of time. For our human experience, because really the human person isn't changing all that much. Just our circumstances are.
That's what's pretty interesting.
So somebody on the screen saying here, Father Watson was the bomb.
Bomb.com.
Yeah.
And Father Kyle, do they still call you the toddler priest?
Oh my
Who calls
gosh.
you the toddler priest?
In my first parish, that's what I got away with. Any little mishaps or things I did wrong. So I'm a baby priest, and then I graduated to a toddler priest. But the people got to decide. Oh my gosh, there's a blast. No, I'm full grown now. I think
I'm a man.
I'm 40. I'm a
40-year-old man.
I'm not 40, but
drive a Camry.
Oh my gosh, that's
anyway. How do you develop homilies?
Well, first and foremost, just my influences I think would be two priests from when I was really all the priests, that I've come across. I've learned something, either how to do something or how not to do something. And two of my chaplains when I was a student here, Monsignor Deptula over at St. Matt's, pastor there, and then Monsignor Swetland, who was the head chaplain here at the time. Many of you know the Swetland Assembly Room, the old cafeteria that's named in his honor. But both of those, I liked both of their speaking styles, and they have different styles, but I feel like at times I'm a blend of those two individuals. But then also, I go back to Fulton Sheen. I'm glad you brought him up, because either listening to him or his writings, him being from our diocese, I have asked his intercession, especially the early parts of my priesthood, but still to this day, ask him to help me be a better preacher, more akin to him. Clearly not nowhere near where he's at, his quality of preaching, but I thought he was a great inspiration. The way I could come up with a homily, it's changed over my years, so it'll be interesting to check back with you guys in 5 years or something and see how it's developed. Because early on, I would go to different commentaries and watch a lot of the things that you guys have just said. So still, that stuff is still there in the back of my mind. And occasionally, I'll use a line in a homily. I'm like, man, that was a great line, blah, blah. And then days or weeks later, I'll be reading some saint or some theologian. I'm like, oh, that's where I got that line, but I didn't remember it, so it's in the subconscious. But at the heart of it, take it to prayer, right? And ask Jesus. I asked Jesus, what do you want your people to know? What do you want them to hear this week? And what's the message? What needs to be said to the folks? And then just kind of look for connections amongst the scriptures, the three readings. And then try to and then of course bring it to a point, and then go over it and over and over it again to edit and to cut things out, to just kind of get to the point a little more quickly, and to just highlight, what we're trying to get at, what I'm trying to get at. So
good.
Anyway.
So
Yeah.
to that point, if you speaking of cutting things out, if you would see Father Chase's homily, by the time Sunday morning rolls around, it's red. Things bleeding. He's got stuff running out, and then that red pen comes in, and he's slashing, writing. It's awesome. We're always working on it. So
I'm not ready until my page is has scribbling all over it and things X'd out and circled and pointed in a different direction.
Oh,
if it's not the case, then I'm not ready. Yeah, it's got to be messy.
Well, now here's just a hypothetical. Either of you can answer this, and I might jump in. But have we ever referenced ourselves in a homily? Hypothetically,
Have we ever brought up a previous homily
have we
we
ever
preached?
brought up previous homily, maybe even just days after?
It was so good that we just had to go back to it.
that we remind ourselves.
I may have said, there was this guy I once knew who was a real idiot. And here's what he did. Here's his sins, and here's how we got over them. Oops.
Who was that? Or
Yeah.
something like, as I mentioned on Thursday. Let's just go back to Thursday for a second.
Oh, stop.
And let's
It
go.
all ties together. You have to remember Thursday.
Remember how I said this, and then now let's go. But referencing our previous homilies.
Yeah,
I think
I've definitely done it.
I've definitely
We've all
done
done
it.
it.
We've been there. We've all been there.
I do it especially throughout the week when I trying to go from one day to the next. Like if there's a theme throughout a week, you can really bring those things together. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just want to throw in real quick because someone I forgot to mention. I have no doubt that he is not watching, but Father Steve Beegler, who's now Bishop Steve Beegler, Bishop of Wyoming, he was one of our. He was in charge of our apostolic works, our kind of volunteering in the seminary, and I always just loved his style. So I remember going and one time he even described how he wrote his. He always wrote it out, but it never seemed like he was reading from the page. So I was curious about that, and so at least early in my priesthood, I took some of his technique, and then I developed my own, and just how to keep it, how to write it out, so I know how long I'm going to be, what I'm going to say, but then hopefully not sound like I'm just reading off the page.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know any bishops that you want to?
And all the bishops that I know.
I personally.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw Bishop Pepperaki from the Diocese of Springfield. 10 years tomorrow, Bishop of Springfield. I saw that in the order.
Time flies.
Yeah, I know you're close to him.
Yeah, the Holy Goalie.
Holy Goalie.
Yeah.
So, well, there we go. There's a little of our homily development, so a little insight into how we do that. Then what I've got for a few other pieces as we kind of move through this episode 4, a couple of questions that we have not yet gotten to that came up from the first week and the second week. But one that's still very relevant is what is something we're looking forward to once this shelter in place is lifted, whenever that might be. I know for me, once this weather's starting to turn, I got to get on the golf course. That's how I'm starting to itch for those golf days. The fact that it's middle of April and I haven't been out yet is kind of sad. Usually the 1st of April or so is when you have a chance to get out.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, is getting the golf game back in tip-top shape.
Yeah, I would say, I was excited for students to come back, but I was.
Me too.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah, because I know as soon as this
students
thing's going to be lifted, we're going to be in summer, so I can't really get excited about that. I mean, no one's coming back for a long time, and we don't know how that's going to be. But so my more immediate thing is just getting back to see family. I haven't.
That too.
I haven't seen them since spring break, and so, which isn't a terrible long time, but we're used to getting together a little bit more than that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say getting down to see the parents down near St. Louis, but just seeing people in general, getting together with friends, and as you all know, just doing it through a Zoom or FaceTime or something like that just isn't. It's not the same.
Totally not the same.
And even for like a larger group, right? You're used to getting together with a group and you break off in little pockets and chit chat, and that's really hard to do virtually.
Yeah, for sure. Another one. How's the? Oh boy,
there's one on there.
What do you do in the summer?
What do you do in the summer when students are gone?
Ooh.
Do you like that time? Yes.
Yes and yes.
I love when students are gone. No, it kind of feels like summer right now, honestly. What do we do in the summer though? Summer's a lot of planning. Well, truth be told, we do a lot of planning before summer even hits for the next year because we have to have our calendar set. But I think we do some of our own stuff during the summer, which is nice. We do a lot of coverage for other priests because I know that we're not as busy as we would have been during the year. And so we cover a lot of weekends. We have tons of weddings almost every weekend here at St. John's. So we do a lot of weddings. We also get away. I do a Catholic soccer camp or two during the summer. And try to do some vacation with the family. Try to go out on the lake, go fishing, hang out. Those are some of my highlights.
Yeah, vacation for sure. With for me, it would be with brother priests. Sometimes getting together with family as well. And there's usually a couple trips. A retreat is in there somewhere, and then
you forgot.
other trips. So usually I'd go into the Focus Training Conference or the training, whatever they call it, to train the new missionaries. That'll all be done virtually this year, so that trip won't happen. And sometimes a mission trip thrown in there. Yeah, Father?
Well, I'll have to wait another year because I have not been here for a summer.
Yeah, that's right.
So
We
I
still
just
have
heard-
daily mass, and we still
Yeah.
do the kind of the normal stuff. So it's not like we're just twiddling our thumbs. But there's always stuff to do.
Yeah, we usually, during the school year, we're putting in long days, so the summer's kind of a time to kind of catch up and just relax and rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do some things with students who are here over the summer, but it's a much smaller group, so
Sure.
much more relaxed.
Sure. Yeah. The one of the questions still that is left to be unanswered. This is kind of a perpetual thing ongoing. How's the exercise routine going? You know, we keep it on top. Physical, mental health. Well-being is all about self-care during these times. One of those is that physical. So just curious. I'll ask Father Chase first, assuming he works out, but I don't know.
Yeah,
You're working with the seminarians
that is
too.
part of my well-being is having a regular workout. In fact, especially on these Sundays in which I'm preaching, I try to get out early just to get somehow it gets the mental juices flowing when I do that. And I feel like, mind, body, and soul are all together. So when I work out and when I feel good, I'm better at Mass. And especially with the seminarians here, the seminarians, are working out almost daily. And so it's good for them, even on days that I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to get out today. I usually get out with them. So just with the extra time that we have built into the day, I'm probably working out as much as I would have in the past year. So it's been really good.
Nice. Yeah. Well, with this quarantine, makes you do silly things or things that you would normally do. Now this is already maybe 2 weeks.
Brace yourself.
Here we go. No, I
Brace
went for a jog. That was like 2 weeks ago. Still feeling it. Still feeling it a little bit in the thighs. And it was, I think it was just over a mile. Went down to where 4th Street comes to the T. Or no, not 4th, 6th Street. Excuse me. 6th Street comes to the T. And went over to
Stadium?
4th. Yeah, right there.
Wow.
And there's some good walk breaks in there. Don't ask how long that mile took. It doesn't
matter.
It's irrelevant.
Doesn't matter. Just that you did it, man.
So we'll see if that keeps up. But it'll get some walks
great.
in. Getting some walks in around the quad, and watching people not social distance on the quad.
That's right. It's pretty close on the quad.
But yeah, we're feeling motivated once in a while to actually get the body moving. So we'll see.
Yeah. I usually do a walk every day,
He's a
but I've
walker.
been pretty
Yeah.
negligent these past
Morning walker.
week or two. Yeah, part of it is we've kind of rearranged our morning schedule a little bit to accommodate the seminarians a bit. So that's throwing me off a little bit. And then the weather was pretty cool this past week, so
Oh yes.
that was my excuse. Not a good excuse, but it was my excuse. So hopefully with the warmer weather coming in, I'll get back out there and
Absolutely.
go for some walks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Well, speaking
One more
of
question.
yeah,
Maybe one more, yeah.
where are we at? Okay.
About 20 minutes.
Oh, good. That's perfect timing. Well, what do we want? We got a couple
I
things.
say, whoa, Father Lucas, it's Madeline Rafferty. Sarah and I are doing some, what does that say? Bar classes? Bar classes. Oh, yeah.
B-A-R-E.
Apparently this is a thing.
What does that mean?
There's like a...
You're welcome to join us. Is that like yoga? Because I don't know if I could do yoga. Father Lamb is going to look it up for us. real quick. Bar classes.
Oh, there's lots of them.
It is yoga. Madeline.
Stop with the yoga. This is
Oh, it's not.
beginner's guide to bar classes.
It can be intimidating for beginners, but they need not be.
I think it's like a gymnastics
It's inspired.
bar.
It's ballet inspired.
Yeah,
it's like
ballet.
a dance thing, probably. Yeah.
Ballet.
Oh,
Could you
we would love to see
imagine?
that.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
get Instagram live
Oh
on
my
Father.
gosh.
This is bar
You don't even have
class.
to do it. Just dress up for it.
What do you wear?
How do you do that?
Probably really tights or something. I don't know.
I'll borrow his Under Armour stuff. Let that.
I got no tights. Yeah. Maybe.
It's not yoga, she says.
Maybe
Well,
Madeline
Okay.
can lend
send
you
me
some yoga
send
pants.
me because I don't
Do a
want to.
bar
I'm not
class.
going to show up and look like a fool. You know, I need to have the right equipment. I need to have the right shoes. I'm sure there's special shoes to get up on the bar or whatever.
Ballet shoes.
Is it slippers?
I mean,
Ballet slippers.
yeah.
Well, I'm curious why. I don't know if I'm a candidate for that.
Next
I don't
week,
know.
ballet with the priests.
Oh my.
I say whoa. I say no.
whoa. Whoa.
So here's a fun one to we can maybe end on here.
Yeah,
Speaking of this with the bar, what is your thought? So obviously right now there's a lot of the fads moving through TikTok or people doing Instagram stuff just in the quarantine. Is there any TikTok or any kind of video or karaoke challenges that we like or intrigued by? Something we want to start or want to try to do? I have one in mind. I have a goal for myself.
Oh whoa.
Yeah. So anything like
No,
that?
the only TikToks that I
No.
That's a
You just
no.
straight up say no.
Say no. Are you entertained by them at least?
Oh, yeah.
Some
by
of
other
them.
people.
Okay. Yeah, by other people doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Go for it.
Well, just the TikToks that I know are the ones that people send me, and I'm always inspired. I'll say, well, that's not true. By the ones that our students send to us, I enjoy when you're doing good and wholesome things on TikToks. That's cool. But I've also seen my other reference of TikToks is I follow some sports news, obviously, and now the sports world is filling up with like what are the athletes doing in their off season, and a lot of them are doing like little TikTok videos, and some of them are dumb and some of them are neat or whatever. But so that's my reference for TikTok.
Okay, I like that. So my
what's
goal,
out there?
This went viral pretty quick. It was a teenage daughter challenged her dad to a dance off, thinking that she was just gonna, wipe the floor with him. So she had no idea that dad could bust a move. So her sister starts a song, and the dad is introducing the video, and he just starts to. I mean, it was incredible, and the daughter was like floored by it. So then they start to go back and forth with these moves. So my goal is I want to learn that dance, and I'm ready for when students return.
So what you're saying is you're
I'm
ready to
ready.
challenge a student.
Not ready. I will be. I haven't even started. I need to practice. I need to learn it. But I will be ready if you come up and say dance
when,
off.
we have
I'll
a
do something.
date? Like, when are you going to be ready? Like, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I can't do it now. I mean, I have to be in proximity with
gotta
them.
do-
I can't do. I mean, to film myself.
Well, they just film themselves, and then you just film yourself.
No. Oh. I don't know. I haven't thought through it this far.
All right. Well,
Clearly.
next week we'll be more clear about the deadlines.
The deadline of what I will do. So, but that's one thing I enjoy very much, watching those things, and set goals for yourself. Don't let this time go to waste. So, anyways, hey, join us for our Divine Mercy celebration here in just a couple hours on
2:30.
2:30 to 3:30. Praying the chaplet, having some adoration time. Follow us on that link. You can get all the resources. And hey, thanks for your support of 6 Feet Apart. And we'll see you back next Sunday here at least. And have a great, blessed week, everyone. See you later. God bless you. Happy Easter.
Peace.